What's up, everyone? I'm in Chinatown, Singapore, and it is, see here, it's a some Singaporean flags behind me. I do find it a little bit bizarre that there is a Chinatown in Singapore because Chinese people are the majority ethnic group in Singapore. But anyway, Chinatown is pretty interesting. I actually had dinner. I'm gonna see if I can show you. I had dinner at a mall today. It's actually called Chinatown Point. Yeah. So behind me, I'll show you. So, yeah, right there behind me, Chinatown Point, that's where I had dinner. And now I'm just kind of walking around. I think this is a more sort of historic part of Chinatown. Yeah, so here in Chinatown, I think Chinatown is quite big actually. There is an MRT station. Actually, an MRT station right at Chinatown. And this is after 11 p.m., I believe, when I'm making this. So it is a little bit dark, but you can still see a lot of the things around me. Yeah, so in any case, Chinatown in Hong Kong, Singapore. Chinatown in Singapore is it's pretty nice, and I'm going to show you. Mainly, I'm going to be walking by a bunch of restaurants, but you're going to see a lot of Chinese architecture, and there's a lot of people of Chinese descent. Most Singaporeans are of Chinese descent. There's also a lot of people from mainland China here. And here's just some random store. This is I'm not sure what kind of store this is. A dry meat place. Yeah, so there's a famous food street I'll be walking by, and here happens to be exit A of the MRT Chinatown. See there, exit A. Yeah, so in any case, a lot of the signs here are bilingual in English and Chinese, although it's not particularly special about Chinatown because a lot of the signs in all of Singapore are bilingual or quadrilingual. Let's see if you can see that. That's kind of it's a cute cat. It might be it's a Japanese place, but see a lot of these stores have both English and Chinese names. And the name for Chinatown in Chinese, it's those these characters. That one, that one, that one. Those are it's the name of Chinatown here in Singapore. And I don't actually know why it's named that way. It's literally ox cart water. I don't really know. There's probably some history behind that. It does seem, because in most of the world, Chinatown, it goes by a different name in Chinese, but here it's that. I don't really know why. So we're gonna walk down Temple Street, and there's a am I gonna walk down this street? No, I guess I walked a bit too far. But I did want to show you the food court, as I had mentioned. So I'm going to walk down the other street. There's a food court. And behind me, there's that building. The characters for that basically mean, what is that? Oh gosh, I think that means like a pearl place. Forgot those characters mean. But anyway, so Chinatown is kind of cool. But I do recommend you come here during the day so you have sunlight and so on. But the lighting is good at night as well. And I do remember in Chinatown is somewhat big. It's not super big, but it's big enough. You can also look at some Chinese temples. There's so if you've ever been to like a traditional Chinese religion temple, like a Taoist temple or a Buddhist temple, you'll probably be able to find those here. And I'm going to walk backwards here. So this road has just a bunch of restaurants, and it has Qingdao beer, which is kind of interesting. If you ever go to China, this is actually named after a city, Qingdao. Qingdao is an interesting city. But yeah, so there's a food court, there's a food street in this area. I'm not certain where it is. Let me see if I can. This is a kind of a shortcut. Okay, yeah, I can get there faster. I apologize for this being dark. There's some people blocking my way, and I didn't want to plow through them. Okay, so in any case, okay, interesting. So there's a Chinatown Heritage Center behind me. Chinatown Heritage Center. And you can see those men look like laborers. So yeah, so in any case, if you're not actually really interested in the history, this place is also just fine for having Chinese food. And as I mentioned, I had Chinese food at a mall, but you can also have Chinese food here. And here you have kind of more modern. So you have here in Singapore, you have lots of mixing between East and West. So, for example, you have this, sort of looks like a Chinese woman with blonde hair. So, in any case, Singapore was a British colony for a long, long time. I don't know how many years, but it's quite a long time. I think it was a British colony for much longer than it was an independent country that it is now. Okay. Yeah, so just here, you can see someplace they're selling durian. These are durian. So these fruits. Okay, great. So on the inside of the fruit, it actually looks like that. It's yellow. And I personally think durian is super delicious. But it has a strong smell. So some places, in the MRT, they actually ban durian because of the smell. And you can see here there's some, what are those things called? Well, these red bulbs that you can find in lots of places with Chinese culture, either in Greater China or in just Chinatowns around the world. As I mentioned, I don't actually really know the history of Chinatown that much, why there's actually a Chinatown. Because it seems a little bit bizarre to me that there's a Chinatown when the majority ethnic group is Chinese. And as a random aside, I've literally seen a Chinatown in mainland China, in Beijing, but I think that Chinatown in Beijing is mainly for tourists. Okay, so this is interesting. Most of the places here are closed, but I'm going to show you some dogs. Sort of, what are they? They're either some kind of statue or they're like a balloon. I can't really tell. But in any case, see there's some dogs up there. And I don't think it could be just that they like dogs and they're Chinese dogs. But this is actually the year of the dog. There's 12 basically Chinese years, zodiac years. I don't know what you call them, but anyway, this is the year of the dog. Okay, what else? Okay, so that way is a Chinatown food street, and I want to show you that. I've probably been there years ago, but it's been a long time. So I was last in Singapore about 8 years ago, so I'm really happy to be back, even though it's for a short time for now. Okay, so I'll just show you this sign here. Okay, so it says Chinatown Food Street, and above there's a statue of, can't really tell, statue of a some person at the top, some kind of a worker, manual laborer. So anyway, now we're on some kind of food street. I'm not super familiar with this area, but there's a bunch of restaurants here. And so yeah, if you ever want to come to Singapore, this is probably a nice place to come to in Chinatown. And you, of course, will have the option of having many restaurants that serve Chinese food. And if you want to practice speaking Chinese, either you're studying it or just you want to speak Chinese, specifically Mandarin, A lot of the people here are going to speak it, and a lot of people probably are going to be able to speak Cantonese too. So more with Mandarin, but you can try also with Cantonese, and you might find some people who can speak in Cantonese. And again, I don't know the history, don't know why there's a Chinatown. Although it could be that just a long time ago, the Chinese ethnic people were a minority in the country, and eventually over time, more and more immigrants came, or they just reproduced more quickly than other groups, and basically became the majority. So Singapore, of course, is quite far from China. I don't know exactly the distance, but by plane it will take you likely at least 4 hours to get to mainland China or Taiwan or Hong Kong. I'll be flying there sometime at the end of the month to Hong Kong. And the number's not perfect, but I believe the time it takes is somewhere between 4 and 5 hours if it were direct, but there's a layover, so it's a little bit longer. But in any case, so this was Chinatown, and I wanted to show you just a little bit more. And just interestingly, you see here there's bilingual signs. So top one says Smith Street, and the bottom one is kind of a transliteration. So that's the leftmost character is a sh. That's me. That's so shimi si. That it's I guess that's kind of an approximation for Smith. So a lot of the names would have been just transliterated that way. They sound somewhat roughly similar. There's a lot of sounds in English that basically you could never perfectly transliterate because a lot of names, because there's just not enough sounds in Chinese to do that. I researched just a while back, but let's just say that there's less than 10,000 syllables in Chinese. Probably much, much less, at least in Mandarin. And I think that's including tones too. So anyway, a lot of Western names are a bit difficult to sort of translate or transliterate into Chinese. So a lot of them times, if you see the name in Chinese, it's a very, very rough approximation. Okay. So now I'm walking through the food street again, and I want to see if I can just show you some more. Okay, so you can see here, this is a hawker shop. It's closed, but during the day you could have good seafood. I personally don't eat seafood, but if you did like seafood, I'm sure they have good seafood here. Okay. Right. Trying to remember where I am. Okay, so I'm just gonna walk past this way. I'm gonna try to see if I can find the MRT again. Excuse me. Where's the MRT? Oh, okay, thank you. Appreciate it. So people in Singapore generally are pretty friendly. I can say that definitely from first-hand experience. Right, okay, yeah, I think I know where I am now. And once you get to the Chinatown MRT, which is on the purple line, you can look at a map. Or just ask somebody in the MRT stations how to get to Chinatown. It's pretty easy, but just look for the purple line. Right, okay, so now I see the MRT, and you can see above me, I forgot what you call these things, but the kind of red decorations. I'm at a loss for words for what these are called, actually. But these are super common during various Chinese festivals. And I'm willing to bet that during Chinese New Year, or around Chinese New Year, this place would get pretty busy. People buying stuff for their family and stuff, eating out. Okay, so Chinatown, as I mentioned, it's big. It's not super big, but there's several exits from the MRT, and you could actually you probably could spend several hours in Chinatown just walking around, seeing different things. So I'm sure that there's some temples, there's food, there's lots of shopping you could do, and overall it's a really interesting place. Okay, so I'd appreciate it if you like this video to please subscribe to my channel. Please give this video a thumbs up. And finally, if you'd like to, leave a comment. Thank you.